few of them, and I actually have a new one. I don't think I've done this one before. We have a Clipchamp one. So I'll link to you guys. And this is actually a Clipchamp Copilot one. I think you're going to find very interesting if you haven't played around with Copilot a little bit. So that's the first one we're going to start with. So if you guys are not familiar with Clipchamp, it's a small, short videos that you can create. This particular update coming out actually utilizes the power of Copilot. If you haven't done much with Copilot, this is something really cool you might want to take a look into. But that Copilot and the visual creator part of Copilot is teaming up with Clipchamp. And basically what you can do is you can throw a prompt in there that says, hey, create me a video that does X, Y, and Z. And what it will do is it'll actually go out there and you can call out a specific document if you want to, just like you normally do within a Word, within a Copilot scenario. But it will actually generate a script. It'll source the stock footage that you're going to use for this, and then assemble the project. And it's a video project inside Clipchamp, right? So once that's done, it's actually going to do things like, music. It's going to throw some music over there. It's going to do voiceover because it's going to take that script and then be able to actually do the voiceover piece of this, as well as some text overlays and transitions and things like that. I actually did this morning just to double check and see how it works inside here at Microsoft. And wow, I was really, really surprised on how easy it was to be able to do that. And then it's in Clipchamp. You can adjust things as is. If you want to bring in your own videos, you can do those types of things. So by the way, it doesn't actually generate the video content. Like if you have video content, great. But if you do have a M365 service asset library, it's going to pull information from there. This is going to be worldwide. No idea, Don, if this is going to end up happening GCC yet. They haven't come out with that, but it is mid-February to mid-March when this is going to be happening. All right, on the 365 apps and web, this is talking about inside the web browser in your Office apps specifically. So there is a solution out there called personal information removal. Basically, organizations can then enable this to be able to say, hey, when I make a copy of this and share this externally, it's going to remove all that value, important information you don't want to necessarily share. So it's going to make it easier so that information doesn't get shared out. Well, the problem is that never was notified people, right? They never knew that was happening. And so this is an update in that process where it's going to be a banner in there saying, hey, you know what, just so you know, it's going to, when you share this out with people, it's going to remove the proprietary information from this. So just so you know. So it's an update that's happening here fairly soon in mid-March to late March, with some public preview happening in late February to early March. On the SharePoint side, we are getting an update in the document library side of things, right? This is happening across all of the different ones, starting in mid-February to late March. Basically what it's doing, they're enhancing some different areas. One of the things is performance, especially when you have your large libraries with a lot of metadata in there. You're going to see improved performance, but you're also going to see things like when you're in grid view, and that's a lot of the changes is going to happen, which we've been utilizing. Some of us have been using SharePoint for quite a while. Grid view has always been kind of a problem, right? So this is a much needed update that has to happen. So things like performance and editing, right? And you're going to get some new commands and navigation within that grid view. Details pane will now open up in grid view, and you can get more information. The right-click menu is also going to get an update. So you're going to have a lot more capabilities and options inside when you're working on the grid view, right? So that grid view looks like that spreadsheet type scenario, okay? So keep that in mind. And that, by the way, is happening here mid-February to late March. Are they fixing copy and paste from Excel? Well, that's a good one, Brian. That would be the next step. And I can see like some of the performance stuff is gonna help, but still some of that stuff doesn't translate well across. And I still see that as an issue. I'm hoping that they will do that. All right, we're going to jump to Viva Connections. So this is the new user-created card. So that connections piece, if you remember, is that dashboard. where you go to, you have all relevant information for your organization sitting there. This actually allows the ability for an employee to create their own link card so they can actually personalize that dashboard, that they have important links that they need to jump to. So when they open up, right, and it goes right to that dashboard, then they have those links that they can jump out to other things as they need it. And again, this is your own personal links that you have that you're setting up inside this dashboard, not what the administrators had created for you. So keep that in mind. It's happening here late February to late March. On the Copilot side, we have another kind of Copilot type scenario. There's actually going to be an app that you can then release that's going to be the prompt gallery, right? This is that gallery for all prompts. And this can be prompts that being used across the organization. So that's happening here early February to mid-February, and allows you to be able to explore collections that are available, those types of things that are set up, and it's across Teams, Outlook, and 365 Copilot app itself. And with a lot of these, make sure you're letting your users know, end users know, if you have these features out there, that this is happening across the board. All right, on the team side of things, right? So a couple of updates that are happening. The first one is going to be wrapped around being able to share files that you may have that may have already been dropped into a chat or a channel, right? So that idea is if it's already inside a chat conversation or, shared tab or channel posts, any of those types of things, it's going to make it easier for you to take that and then share it to a group chat or one-on-one or even a child scenario, right? Or a channel scenario. Permissions that are set on it originally are going to retain throughout. All right, hang on. I feel like I need to do this. Give me a second. Just to make sure. All right, I think I got that locked down. All right, as I was saying, the permissions, whatever they have the permissions for originally are going to retain as you're sharing it out to wherever, right? But also know that when you do that, you're going to get a little dialog window in there that you're going to be able to put a message in there for whomever you're sending it out to, as well as at mention if needed, right? No administrative actions required for this. And by the way, make sure you notify your users of this change because this could be very useful for them. Okay, on the Teams phone side, and interesting, next month I'll be talking about phone. This is the one part of it, and this is the emergency calls. And especially when you are not inside your organization and you're out and about, right? So this emergency remote working type scenario. What they're doing is they're moving because it's all based off of location, right? So where you're located at, it's picking that up and saying, hey, this is where I'm located, and sending that information to 911. Well, one of the things is that's moving from the OS level and into the app level. Right, so some of those settings are going to be in there. So if you have Teams voice in your organizations, this is one of those I want you to make sure that your UC people, your unified communications people, know that this is happening. You may involve your desktop people as well in this, but there's going to have to be a user consent that has to happen first just to make sure that everything is working inside the app. Otherwise, you may have some issues with the remote working emergency calling piece happening. So this is happening here late February to early March for all commercial and government tenants. Another piece that also is coming out from the Teams voice side is the ability to be able to have one resource account, to be able to have what are called nested or linked entities inside Teams voice. So for instance, if I have a auto attendant, and that's that first one I jump into, I call a number and I get that, hey, dial 1 for support, sales support, dial 2 for HR, dial 3 for sales, right? So that type of an auto attendant then will jump me to what's called a call queue. Right. So in the past, we would need to have a Teams phone resource account for every single auto attendant and call queue that I have set up in that type of scenario. Well, now in this linked voice apps feature coming out here, it's actually out right now. What it's going to do is going to say you can have one phone resource account, and if I have an auto attendant going to 4 different call queues and another auto attendant, you only need one for all of that, as opposed to having one for each of those entities, right? So that's an important change, and especially if you have Teams Voice, that is Teams Phone that is within your organization. Your unified communications people should know about this. All right, for everybody, and it doesn't matter if it's a phone, if it's a VoIP call, or if you're needing a call, this feature is coming out to you, and I think you're going to enjoy this one. This is one where it's actually going to show that volume indicator. So if I take a look at my mic icon in my meeting bar, I should see that it's actually showing changing as far as my voice and how I'm doing. So the idea behind this is to help presenters or anybody that's in the meeting understand, hey, can they hear me, right? So I don't know how many times you hear this. Can you hear me, right? That's really about trying to reduce the number of times you're having something like that happen inside a meeting, right? That minimize those interruptions. That should be happening here soon, right? So worldwide, late March to late April, GCC and GCC, GCCH, mid-May to mid-June, and DoD, late June to early August, right? So coming up here, we should be able to see that indicator. I'm interested, I know some of my colleagues here at Microsoft is already starting to see that we're internal testing, and it really helps you as you're trying to figure out what's going on in your meetings. All right, another focus of Teams, large events. And this is a big change, especially if you're doing anything with webinars or if you're doing anything with town halls. There's this feature called the green room. And the green room really is that place where your presenters and organizers can meet and make sure everything's okay, but it's not started that event at this point. So you can go into the green room, but at the end, right before this comes out, at the end, it shuts, and you say, I want to end the meeting. It shuts it down and everybody then gets out of there. It's done. Well, this is going to add it so that the organizations and presenters go immediately back to the green room so you can have follow-up conversations to make sure everything went well with that particular event. That is happening here starting in mid-February to late February for worldwide, GCC coming a little later, and GCCH and DoD coming later than that. Important, this is one of those features you want to make sure that your organizers understand what's going on. So make sure you get some details out to those organizers of those meetings. I do want to call out some of the quick mentions in there. One of the things that, again, on the large meeting side of things, there is this first one up here. This is post and replies and organizer in Q&A app. And that Q&A app is that moderated Q&A that you can have for those types of events. Well, what you did not have the ability to do is being able to, when you post, if I'm an organizer, it would post on behalf and say me, right? But I don't want that. I want the organizer to be known as what's going on in this particular event. So that should be happening here then mid-March to late March. Also, find this out a lot. A lot of times if you're updating the event, it'll actually send information out to everybody, right? So this will no longer have that happen, right? So especially in town hall and webinars, you're not going to see any of those updates in the past, especially presenters. They would get pinged a lot as any of that was updated inside the back end. On the Teams phone side, seems like there seems a lot of things happening on the phone side, but for those who are utilizing the Queues app, which is kind of an advanced feature within Microsoft Queues, this is getting an upgrade here in late April to early May, and that upgrade is the ability to do monitor, whisper, barge, and takeover. So if I'm a supervisor, I can do that with my agents. So it's kind of like a contact center capability, but understand that Teams Queue app does require the Teams premium license to be able to unlock and use from there. All right, some other little things. Admin settings for Power Automate to be able to allow end users to be able to resubmit is actually coming out as well. There's a preview mode for pages and news posts in SharePoint, so I can preview it before I go ahead and post it and get everything out there. We're going to get some updates. Now, this is for the new Outlook for Windows and web, but being able to categorize individual emails versus the entire thread is coming here fairly soon. I also thought this one was interesting. The ability for the native Bluetooth call, right? That whole hands-on with multiple peripheral devices. So if I have, I have a couple different devices that I use with my laptop and my computer, and I happen to have my headset on. Whatever I'm utilizing when I'm using Teams, that will now be my main device for that particular, on my computer and everything. So it'll make sure everything is set so that it will always use that as my main device. And then if I go to something else later on, then it will change it to that, right? So a lot of times it's, hey, I jump on a new call and why is it not working this time, right? So it's kind of getting around those types of things. And then there's a new people administrator role that's coming in Microsoft Entra. You, as administrators, you want to be able to look at this and being able to give people the ability to not necessarily a full global admin rights, but the ability to be able to change people-related settings and profile photos. Admin actions, just to make sure you see, again, Teams Live event. That's still on, that's still available. There's no deadline on that one. The one I want to call out as new is this one here, April 13th. The My Feed web part is retiring here on April 13th. So those are the Message Center posts for this time.